with you now, the AFC Wimbledon head coach Mark Robinson. Of course, Sunderland are opponents on Saturday. Lots going on with them at the moment, but I suppose, how's it been for yourself and your coaching staff trying to organise for who you could be meeting across the other side of the dugout?
Yeah, we don't really think about it, Rob. You look at their games and what they've been doing recently, and you look at their performances, and as I said, we're focusing on what we've got to do. If they have someone coming before Saturday, you tend to get that little bit of sort of raising enthusiasm. So you've got to be ready for that if they bring in a new manager before Saturday. But we need fundamentally for it all to be about us and how we're going to get back to winning ways.
Absolutely. I mean, it could be a good time to face them. It might not be, but as you say, it's got to be about us, hasn't it?
Yeah, you can't focus on ifs and buts and surmise on situations, because it's irrelevant. It's all about how we're going to perform on the day, and that's what we're focusing on.
Of course, after the other night against Rotherham, the players are a little bit down, a little bit disappointed. How have you been sort of after that, trying to pick them up with a mindset and so on?
Yeah, and it's difficult because you look at a game against Rotherham. Normally, that as I said, that's not going to define where we finish. That they are in my opinion, on a different level in terms of what they do, and some people think it's not healthy to look at other teams and have them as a benchmark. But in terms of their intensity and their relentlessness, I do have them as a benchmark because I kind of know where we want to go. And I look at them, and it's they're a team where I go, well, if we're gonna close the gap on teams, and we're gonna use those fine margins to get where we need to. I looked at them, and I've watched the game back twice now, and there's lots of things they do that I admire and I want us to get to, and that we have to. So it was strange that the lads were down after that. I don't think it was just that down after that game. It's obviously the run of results, because I think first half they felt we contained them well. We could have done a little bit better, but then, as I said, second half we let it get away from us, and we never, as I said, we didn't put our personality on the game, and that was the key. We knew we'd have to match them physically, and we knew we'd have to be really good at set pieces. But then the other way that you can stop them being proactive is by having a personality on the ball, and making sure that we try and impart our game on them, and that was the bit we didn't do second half. We were really ineffective, and I think that just made the boys feel flat, because that doesn't happen very often, even in games we've drawn before, etc. That we always look like we're going to carry a threat or score goals like we did against Charlton, whereas I just think Tuesday night they felt second half that never looked like happening.
Just picking up on the point you said there about the benchmark for this season with Rotherham. I mean, we saw it last season with Hull. I was saying to your assistant the other day, Rob Tooley.
Yeah.
You've often looked at their play last season as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it's like anything. No one's got the answers to anything. So you look at anyone in sort of around you are doing really well, and other sports, and you look and go, you want to get those gains to how we can get to those levels. Obviously, we work very hard to close the gap in terms of where we are, so that we can be successful. I looked at Hull last year, how effective they were in transitions, and you want to work towards that. I mean, the big key for me, and I've said this to the lads today, we had a meeting, is how they relentlessly do things. So I think when we're at our best, people would describe us as quite relentless in the way we play, but can we continually do it? And that's the big key with them. I look at them and they relentlessly do things. Now, whether that's down to age or, I did speak to Paul about it, and he said, you've got to remember, we're 3-4 years into this, and they've had continuity with a big bulk of the same players. So I realised, we're less than a year into it, with this squad 6 months into it. So I've got to realise that, but you've got to search for that continued relentlessness. And I said to the boys, when we're at our best, I look at the Accrington game, and I looked how relentless we were that night. And I said, sometimes I think possibly the fact the weather was the way it was that night, it put complete focus on what we needed to do. So there was no distractions thinking about, we're going to try anything different. It was a night where we went, we need to stick to our jobs. The weather was awful, it was up against us, and that kind of gave you a focus. And that night, I felt we put in a real manly, relentless performance. And it's getting to those levels week in, week out, where we know when we look good, we know when we're effective, and it's finding that continuously and not going off track. I give the lads freedom to perform in certain ways, and I think the fans can see that. That's why they get excited when we're good at the way we play. but at the same time you've got to have this relentlessness about you, and not be up and down, and that's what we've got to find.
Well, when you first came into the job, one of the first 5 messages you put up around the side of the pitch was that word relentless, isn't it? And something you've always looked to stick by, yeah?
Yeah, and it's, you know, and it comes in many different forms, and it's not just what you do on the pitch, it's what you do off the pitch, and, you know, you sneak into little bad, comfortable habits off the pitch, and they translate to on the pitch. And, you know, and it's the hardest thing to find, you know, the mental side of the game is the toughest aspect. All these lads can play, you know, everyone's seen that on their day, they're good players and they can make things happen, but it's finding that mental resilience and toughness to relentlessly keep able to do the same thing over and over again. It sounds boring, but you just have to.
Sometimes straight after a battle, you know, you come in and your emotions are pretty high, and they will be, of course, as well, but I mean, then you go through analysis, you look through the game again, particularly the first half the other night. I mean, there were things to be very encouraged about, weren't there?
Yeah, and Paul said that to, you know, first half, he said I couldn't see how they were going to score unless it was a set piece. He said, like, it was so well organised, and we are competitive. You know, every game, and whatever it is now, the 7 draws in 12. You know, we're competitive. We know that, but we've got to turn it into wins now. So those small margins we've got to put in our favour, and you don't do that by relying on ifs and buts and relying on referees' decisions and things, all those sort of things. You got to do it by basically, you know, continuously doing the right things, taking the brakes off in certain areas, not being risk adverse in the right way, and that's what we're doing. As I said, once it a turn, I think the good thing is if you use this period in the right way, once it turns, you should come out of it for good. That's the key, and that's what I've said to the lads. You know, no one wants to go through the period we're going through now, but if you use it in the right way, once the results turn, and they will, then this can make you even stronger.
Second half the other night, there wasn't too many opportunities from us on goal, but of course Sam is still building those relationships with the forward line, with Abe and with Jack Radoni. Is that something you're sort of working on in the final third still?
It is, and I said that's something that they've got to do. You know, when you've got a schedule of Saturday, Tuesday, there's only so many hours on the training ground, and I said, and it's your job as well to have those conversations. You know, doing stuff on the pitch is one thing, but you've got to be having those conversations. And making sure that you're building those relationships. That's almost telepathic. You know what each other want from certain areas, because you can't, when you're Saturday, Tuesday, you can't spend hours and hours on the training pitch. So, you know, whether it's through analysis or whether it's them talking, you've got to build those relationships and build them quickly.
Just sort of turning towards team news here now, starting off with Alex Woodyard. As we know, he's constantly active. He doesn't like sitting still. He's trying to get back in there again as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Is he due another scan? How soon away is he?
Yeah, so he's just had a scan. He's come back and it's looking positive. It's all going in the right direction. He's not ready yet, but it's all going in the right direction. So I'll talk to Tim and check, but you know, it's still probably going to be a few games yet. But it's all moving in the right direction.
Lee Brown spoke to us as well before the game the other night. Could he be involved Saturday?
Yeah, no, Lee's looking better already. He trained today and trained really well. So yeah, no, he'll be back in contention.
What can you tell us about Dan Choker? Because we're a little bit concerned, of course, he had to come off at half time.
Yeah, and I wasn't making excuses. You know, I think you speak to any manager, you never want to make a centre back substitution. And as I said, that's certainly no disrespect to Will, who's been brilliant for us. But in a game like that, where you're facing the challenges and you know you get up to speed, which Dan was coping well, as was Ben and as was PK. So kind of going in cold and making that change wasn't ideal. And I don't think that helped us in the second half. But we checked with Dan, he's feeling better. But as I said, it was just a situation that at the time you can't take risks and that. But everything seems to have calmed down. And we're monitoring the situation at the moment. He's just resting, and then we'll look at it. But Saturday, certainly not for Dan, unfortunately. Okay. But yeah, the main thing is that he's well, and the situation has calmed down. We've
seen pictures of Aaron Presley out in Portugal, with Brentford. Yeah. How's he been coming along? He's getting closer, yeah?
Yeah, he's getting closer. Brentford rang me yesterday to get permission for him to have some minutes in the game out there, so I think he's getting 15-20 minutes, which is good. So yeah, Prez should be back sooner rather than later, which is good again, so that's even more competition, which is good.
I saw a picture as well on Instagram from Henry Lawrence with a sort of like a clock ticking down as he's eager to get back in as well, but you've got to be careful with him, haven't you?
Yeah, and Henry, I think that again, that's going to be longer term, 3-4 weeks, which is a real shame. But you know, as I said, or at some point all these players are going to have a part to play, and we're confident it'll be a part to play that's, you know, as I said, that's going to get us in the best position we've ever been. So even if it's for the last 4 games, who knows what impact it can have for us.
How's Egley Kadji? Because of course he made that great assist for Jack Rodoni at Wickham. How's he coming along?
Yeah, so Egley's had a little calf problem. I think he's just had to go to have a scan today. So again, no good for Egley on Saturday.
I saw Thomas out there as well this afternoon. He's keen to get back in there as well and given a chance, yeah?
Yeah, they are. They're all itching, and I said it's for the first time probably this season that I've actually got that problem where, you know, I'm leaving players out the squad. And I've said to the lads, listen, it's just a numbers game. You look at the bench and you look, you know, where you might want impact. So you can't get down about it if you're not in the squad. That's the norm at most clubs. Most clubs are leaving 5, 6, 7 players at home. We're different because we carried a small squad, but now we've got a bigger squad. Said you got to get on with it. It's you don't get paid just to play on a Saturday. You get paid to come into work every day, and when your opportunity comes along, you got to take it. So I said, if you're not in the squad, don't take it personally. But you can only have so many subs, and you've got to keep pushing each other. And when your opportunity comes along, you've got to take it.
In a way, that's a nice dilemma for you to have, yeah, to have people knocking on the door.
It is, and it's the hardest part of the job, leaving people out. But fundamentally, you know, they've got to realise we are where we are in the league, and it's up to players to come and own the shirt. And you know, although we've had some good performances this season, I don't think there's too many you can say I've consistently owned the shirt, and that's their job. That's what they've got to do.
So look, Saturday, Sunderland, of course, they're going to travel in good numbers. They're going to have a big following here as well. But our fans have been brilliant recently. They've been really making themselves vocal.
Outstanding. You know, as I keep saying it, I've been inundated with emails and I had a wonderful letter from a fan the other day that was on my desk, and I rang him. Well, I left a message with him before the game actually. But it's just a really good letter, not a letter just full of praise or anything. It was just a real constructive letter, giving me his opinion, but in a really constructive way. And it's been great. It's been great. As I said, you know, I think on the whole, the fans can actually see what we're trying to do here, and once we pull clear of this, I think, you know, let's see that we're in a very different position to what we've been in the past. You know, as I said, since we've been a professional football club, apart from those 4 months, we've always fought relegation, and I think possibly the expectations early in the season made everyone think, oh, this is the year we're not gonna be down there, and that's how I want the fans to think. And I'm absolutely gutted that we are down there, because I didn't expect us to be either, and I think possibly, you know, that's brought people down a little bit, because the way we started, they thought we were going to have a season looking up rather than down, and it's our job now to make sure that can still happen. There's still 48 points to play for, I believe. Got that right, haven't I?
Yeah.
48, yeah. So and that's what we've got to do. We've got to start working ourselves up the table. But the fans, as I said, they've been phenomenal.
But that's it, you've got to have that mentality, haven't you? I mean, it could turn on the next game, and if it does, then you could get on a roll, and there's still time to do that.
There's loads of time, and as I said, you know, you look at those draws where I know fans say, oh, we should have won, and we should have won, but if we were 5-6 points better off, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation now. But would we really be in any different place? You know, yeah, we'd be in a different place in the league, but in terms of where we are as a team and where we're going as a club, the situation's still the same. So, you know, the only difference is obviously those extra 6-7 points probably breeds a bit of confidence. So it's my job to keep the lads confident, and you know, and the fact they care so much that they don't become anxious. And as I said, once we climb clear, then you know, we can really start having a good time.
Brilliant. Robbo, thanks for your time.
Cheers, Rob.